Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and well, I just got back from a trip all around Europe, but specifically for this video, this was my haul from a particular used LEGO store in Alkmaar, Netherlands, only around a 20-minute train ride away from Amsterdam, Netherlands. So, as you can see, this is a massive haul of some of the rarest vintage LEGO sets ever, and we're going to be taking a look at it right now, but let me explain where I went first. So in Alkmaar, Netherlands, you can find a lot of really nice things like a cheese museum. Every Friday they have a fantastic cheese market, so if you're into cheese, do check that out. Some wonderful canal tours around the town itself. And oh yeah, LEGO Perron 4, which is a hub for absolutely insanely well-priced vintage LEGO items and rare things that you probably will never ever find in person anywhere else. So Perron 4 is a store that has been operating for years in the town of Alkmaar in Netherlands. I actually have visited multiple times. This was my fourth visit. I first kind of discovered it back around 2012, I believe, or 2013, went back in 2015-16, went again in 2018, and now I'm back again in 2022, and it has not changed. In fact, the selection has gotten even better. So before we jump into my haul, I kind of want to take a closer look at the store itself, kind of show you around what to expect at the storefront, kind of the things that you can see inside and out of the store. Let's go. Even just as you approach the store, you know you're in for something special. From the vintage LEGO box adorning the front to a very interesting LEGO almost gumball-like mystery vending machine, this is unlike any other LEGO store. And as you can see, they had a lot of really rare items immediately on display. So the storefront actually has an interesting strategy, where most of the items available in the store itself are just regularly common, more recent LEGO sets. However, there is a special area for the back for fans of vintage LEGO, where he actually mentioned he draws from a warehouse which is not currently on site, and he continually updates it with vintage items from his own warehouse on a regular basis. And so, you never know what he's going to have there upon each subsequent visit. Of course, on the inside of the store itself, you can see all sorts of rare LEGO items adorning the tops and sides of the store itself. One of the most interesting things was seeing an actual vintage LEGO store sign, which was from one of the very first toy fairs, which the store owner actually was able to visit quite a few times, which is how he got a lot of these items back in the 1960s and 70s. And as you can see, for the most part, the rest of the store is basically just laid out with most of the modern sets. There's really only a couple surprises here and there, and that's where the real interesting stuff starts. As you can see, there is a case in the back of the store featuring some classic vintage LEGO items, and that was where my interest lay. So first of all, on some of the walls you could find some interesting odds and ends like this vintage motor set, and the prices were quite good as well. You can see these older LEGO base plates, the whole pack of them for $12.50. But here's where we get to the rare stuff. So a lot of the stuff he had here unfortunately was not for sale. He had a lot of bins of pieces and whatnot, but a lot of it also was, like the Technic Idea books for only €5, these very special vintage LEGO cars, the most rare of which being this special dealership LEGO car, which I believe runs at around €200, and that was even at a very good price. I did not unfortunately pick that one up, but you can see all sorts of other stuff here, like actual models from Miniland, a whole lot of classic space stuff, and mind you, I did get every single classic space set from here that I didn't already own, and a lot more rare LEGO boxes, which we'll be taking a look at later on in this review. One of the most interesting items he had in his collection that was not for sale was the smallest LEGO box ever, containing only two 2x4 bricks. Exhibitors working for the LEGO Group at the very first European toy fair that LEGO debuted at in the 1960s would wander around the showroom and just give these away to people, showing the power of just two LEGO bricks. There were quite a few other rarer items like this one right here, which actually depicts one of the original family members of the Christensen family, which were the founders and CEOs of LEGO. This again was for his private collection and not for sale, but he was kind enough to let me take a look at it and play around with it. And of course, as you can see here up there, that LEGO clock is an actual LEGO clock. You could have gotten that from the toy fairs back in the 1960s and 70s. And after all was said and done, I had a massive box of stuff to ship back home because there was no way I was being able to carry all of this just in my luggage. And so, after crossing my fingers and praying that none of this that you see here would get lost, missing, or water damaged, I headed to the post office right down the road, wrote down my address, and shipped it home. And thanks to a very unfortunate error in the way that they actually wrote my address, it actually went to the United States outlying islands first before eventually making its way to my home nearly a month and a half later. But hey, it got here, that is all that matters, and now it's time to transition to the haul. Some of the most interesting items I got from the store weren't even LEGO themselves. Instead, they are actual old magazines and brochures from the early days of LEGO, of which I managed to get quite a lot of because I wanted to add to my collection of different LEGO catalogs. Now, what I tried to do is get one from every single year of LEGO, or one of each type, and it's really interesting kind of going back in time and seeing what LEGO catalogs were like back then. Many of these sets, which you can see right here, are actually ones that I were able to pick up from the store, so it was especially cool being able to see stuff that I actually was able to get as well from the same store, such as this fire engine here, which we'll be taking a look at later. All of these came from a very early era of LEGO where they were really trying to experiment with what kinds of models they were making. Initially, they tried to put together a lot of these different toy cars, which really don't look a lot like LEGO whatsoever, but the way they worked is that they actually worked and interfaced with actual LEGO builds, and you put together little houses and garages for them, and then you could use them as storage. Now, of course, moving onwards, we have even more. This is getting into the more standard LEGO stuff. These are the LEGO trains, so you can see all sorts of different details for the trains here. I'm not going to go through every single one of these catalogs because, to be honest, that is a separate video on its own, but you can just really enjoy and feel free to pause the video at any point if you want to take a closer look at anything you see here. And again, really tried to get something completely unique at the store for each catalog so you can really see the different evolution of LEGO throughout the years. Like this one, for instance, is from many years ago. Not even sure, I believe the 1960s is what this one's from, and they'll start to print the dates of the catalogs here. So 1967 is this particular catalog, where you can see they're really focusing on the trains and the bricks here, introducing some motorized trains as well as the cars, almost kind of going into what would eventually become the model teams type of stuff. But then it's not until we get much later on, until 1981 and stuff like that, where we can see stuff like the minifigures, and of course classic space. There's your Galaxy Explorer, a really interesting way of showing off the set. Not necessarily the angle I would have chosen there, but of course you have the catalog broken up by years 1 to 5, then 4 to 12 and whatnot, and all sorts of different themes like town and trains and Technic even, which you can see right here. Now, I just find these really interesting because LEGO used basically the same exact format for catalogs throughout almost its entire run. It only became very recently that they actually changed the dimensions of their standard catalog. In the US, we never really get catalogs like these anymore. Sure, we get some magazines, but in Europe you can still see these square-shaped catalogs. Here's one from 1982, so another one right here focusing specifically on LEGO trains, but it's interesting seeing the evolution of these catalogs, and again, he had one from pretty much every single year of LEGO, so that's exactly what I tried to do. Get one catalog for every year, so we have 1983 here. You can see the different train stuff for that. See, 1986, I tried to get ones for the years he did have, but there were quite a lot of different ones. This is 86, you can see some great town sets, a lot of space stuff. Man, imagine getting this much space stuff nowadays. All these different LEGO space sets, all together. Fabuland, of course, another classic theme. Look at that massive Fabuland structure. That is really cool. I want to make that myself. And of course, you have even Duplo stuff right here. We have 1988. So this is getting into more advanced Technic stuff. I actually do have this transformable robot here. That's a pretty cool set. I also got this set, which is a classic flagship Technic set here. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got some city, a lot more space, and seems like they're advertising the monorail now. So there is the old Futuron monorail. And of course, Blacktron was onto the scene these years as well. So one of my favorite, or probably my favorite classic space sub-theme is Blacktron. So very cool to see that. Now, can we see any castle stuff here? I'm sure they had castle stuff at this time as well, so let's see. Here we go, castle. Okay, Black Falcons, all sorts of good stuff here. The Guarded Inn, that is a great LEGO set right there. All sorts of fantastic stuff, and of course more Fabuland, because this is a European catalog. Moving onwards, we have 1982, so obviously these are a little bit out of order, but these are more train stuff. You can see some space, city, and town, and more Fabuland, and even just standard brick boxes. Look at the way they were doing these, where you literally just pay for certain bricks that you want, and you get a ton of them in bulk. Kinda wish LEGO would still do stuff like that. Now, these two, actually not sure why I got two of the same one. That may have been a mistake on my end, but oh well. Now we have a LEGO and Duplo 1985 catalog here. So this has a big mix of different castle stuff and Fabuland and even some Technic. Let's see, where's our space stuff? Can we find any space stuff here? It's Castle, Fabuland. This looks like basic stuff. Okay, maybe no space stuff in this catalog. That's interesting, but we've got a lot of really cool stuff. Look at those old Duplo sets too. Those look really fun to play with. And we even have 1984, so again, another similar layout of the catalog here where you can see a lot of different trains. This was when LEGO was really trying to spec out their towns and train stuff, so you can see all sorts of different things there. And yeah, there it is. Those are the different themes, which are summarized in a really nice table of contents on the front. Moving on, this is 1983, so again, yeah, must have put these catalogs in completely out of order, but again, seeing some fantastic vintage sets, and what's really cool about this is that all these catalogs are in fantastic quality. 1990 is getting closer and closer to stuff that I'm familiar with. We've got the M-Trons right here, which are fantastic, and then some more trains and all sorts of town stuff. I just love the gorgeous actual photographs they used here, so if you take a look here, this is a photo. Somebody set up this diorama and took a photo to use as the catalog, and that is probably my favorite thing about seeing these sets and seeing these catalogs is that they actually laid out every single set in their own dioramas. Like, look at the train stuff here. Shooting it at night was a really cool idea and really emphasizing the lights and whatnot. This is just a really magical image of the pirate ship sailing off into the distance, and I just really wish that LEGO would still do that nowadays. Imagine if they did this with modern sets where you could really see them all fully displayed out in an actual layout that you could recreate as your own, and on your own as a kid you could actually put it together. That is something really special, and I think this is one of my favorite catalogs to look at just because of the really beautiful layouts where you can see all the different sets. You can see like the Blacktron versus the Futuron here. Look at that amazing photograph. So all sorts of fantastic details, and this is my favorite thing about this era of LEGO catalogs. Finally, we have 1992 here. That's a really cool way of building out the 1992 text, and we have yet more of those gorgeous actual photograph backgrounds. The backgrounds and terrain were actually handmade and hand painted. You can see another Pirates one here, so all sorts of really great presentation here, and this is what was a really special way to me of presenting the LEGO products. They're not just showing off each individual set on their own, but they're really showing off what you can do by buying the entire system. And by buying multiple sets or putting all the sets together, you can really get a cool layout like this, which really unlocks your imagination. And this is such a fun way of looking at things. But I think we've spent enough time on the massive amount of LEGO catalogs that we got here, and it's probably time to actually take a look at some of the items I got on this haul. So let's move on. Believe it or not, this incredibly small and diminutive LEGO item is actually an item produced by LEGO. It is a very tiny little fire truck here, which is the same exact style of vehicles that LEGO used to put out around the very early days. This one actually is branded by Mercedes, which you can see by the logo up front there. And it does have these little metal or plastic wheels that are chromed that do roll along like so. Now, what's really special about this is that most iterations of this being sold online do not include this special winch in the back. Most of the time, the winch has fallen off. And this one actually does include the winch, and it was actually really cool because later on my trip, I got a chance to go to Legoland Germany, where they actually had a little display dedicated to the oldest LEGO products. They had this exact set, and it was missing the winch. So I actually had something that was a little bit more complete than something on display at the actual LEGO building and whatnot, which was very cool. Now, very tragically, as I was shipping this back home, because I couldn't actually bring these items back home, I had to ship them, this piece did crack, so this is supposed to be attached right here, which is very sad. It was in mint condition when I got it, and it did crack in transit. That was quite depressing, but you know, all I'll take is a little glue, and this is just for my own collection anyway. It's not like I'm reselling it. It's just a bit of a shame, but the way this works is the ladder actually can be pulled outwards, although it doesn't really work all too well because this just breaks off now, but it essentially is supposed to just stay in like so. It's a really nice system, and it really harkens back to an older time when when LEGO, again, wasn't really sure what they were doing with their types of builds. They were really experimenting with different types of toys, and this was one of the earliest plastic LEGO toys that's still integrated within the LEGO system. It's a very interesting look back in terms of history to see what sorts of things was LEGO making, or what sorts of toys were LEGO making back in the day. You can actually see the LEGO logo on the back of the truck here, as well as the Mercedes brand. Super simple stuff, but I really like the clever amount of detail here with something that probably was hand painted in terms of having the black and silver here. It's just a really interesting toy to get that it actually is made from LEGO. But now let's move on to some things that actually involve LEGO bricks. Alright, so these are truly special. So the store was selling these boxes for around 8 to 10 euros a piece, where if you check out Bricklink, they're a lot more expensive than that. And I am not exaggerating here when I say this is probably one of the greatest LEGO deals or vintage hauls that I have ever gotten in my life and my entire journey of collecting LEGO. So these are the containers that LEGO bricks used to come in. Back in the day when LEGO was first starting out, you could actually just purchase these different kind of cigarette box type containers. They all were numbered in a specific order, and you could actually purchase them as official sets, where you could use them to supplement more larger sets. So let's take a closer look here, and I probably am going to keep all the pieces inside here. Obviously these aren't actual like sets, they're more like parts packs, but it's really interesting because each of these boxes is in pretty pristine condition, or very good condition for its age and time, and it's very rare to be able to find something like that nowadays. And the way they work is that you just pull them open, and there the parts are, just pretty much just loose sitting in there. So these, for example, were little turntables. Now, obviously, LEGO's turntables do not look like these nowadays. This was the very first form of LEGO turntable that they ever came out with, and this is a very interesting piece to have. Thankfully, it does come with a ton of different turntables in there, all the same color, pretty much just duplicates of the same part, but you could use these for all sorts of different applications if you wanted to purchase it yourself. What's very interesting about this box in particular is that it actually shows each of the different countries where a patent was filed for the LEGO bricks. Obviously, the patent has since expired now, but if you really look up close, you can see all sorts of different countries listed, all the different places where LEGO actually had a patent on their toys. Hong Kong, Switzerland, Venezuela, West Germany, all sorts of different places here, and it's really cool seeing that actually having to be listed on the boxes, because of course this was well before LEGO originally had their full patent in place. Here you can see the box itself has been patented, so the way the box is set, and also it is printed in Denmark, so that is very cool here. And that is just one example of one of the many really interesting boxes that you can see here. Now this one did have a little bit of a window so you can look inside, and it does have some weathering damage to the box itself just because of how old it is. Some of them are in a little bit better condition than others, but most of the ones I got here are these standard boxes, which essentially kind of work as slide out boxes. You just slide them open here and you can see the original LEGO bricks. Now if you notice here the way that these bricks are formed, these are actually an older style of brick. They have the older LEGO logo on them, and you can actually see that underneath they do not have these standard cross axles inside most LEGO bricks, making the clutch power not fantastic on these. They will just fall apart basically, but it is really interesting because this was an early form of LEGO brick right before they actually nailed how to get the clutch power just right. So as it is right now, they are pretty loose, they do tend to fall apart, but they do work, and the dimensions are the same as any other LEGO brick. So it's kind of interesting seeing the different styles of bricks that you would get here. On the side of the box, they're kind of advertising other sorts of bricks that you can get, as well as a large garage type thing for these small cars, because again, this was still working with those very tiny cars which we saw at the beginning of the video here, like those right there. And you even see some examples of kids playing and building their own creations and stuff you could do with the bricks themselves. So setting aside these 2x2 bricks here, this is another type of box here, and this is probably my favorite one because these pieces do not actually come in trans-clear in the modern era. This style of box is fully plastic. It does have a cardboard wrapper around it, but the way this works is that you kind of slide this out like so. And this whole thing is a box. Like, this is a LEGO piece right here. It's a transparent clear piece in absolutely fantastic condition. This is absolutely insane how cool this is and how clear it is, and just how it's really held up the test of time. This is just one big LEGO base plate here, which you can see kind of just closes in on the box like so. And inside, you have these transparent clear Lego 2x4, or sorry, 2x2 tiles or plates here, which are in pristine condition. And these are really stunning to have in such good condition nowadays because again, you don't really get these pieces in clear anymore, and this is very, very clear. It's very stunning how remarkably clear they are. And let me just kind of try to pour some of them out here so we can get access, and we'll pick up the rest later. We can get access to the instruction manual here because I actually do want to take a look at the manual itself. That came with a ton of those pieces actually. That's really cool. So here we have a little bit of a manual, and it's a Lego ruler. So it's teaching you how to measure your different heights of Lego bricks and stack them so you can plan for architecture. So this is almost like a serious type of thing where you're actually supposed to be planning on how to set up a layout for some sort of a house or architecture here, and it's teaching you how each centimeter corresponds to an actual scale unit when building it in real life. That is really cool how they actually have this printed on paper. Obviously the patent is still pending there, and this is really trying to advertise what LEGO is trying to do to influence early architecture with just this brick here. So very, very interesting stuff going on here. And again, really cool to get so many clear pieces in such pristine condition. I mean, just look at how good these are. Not one of them is really yellowed because of age, and the case is also in fantastic condition. I mean, absolutely remarkable to find this in such great condition nowadays. So very, very lucky to have come across the store again selling this particular type of thing. So let's kind of just get this all boxed up again. This is probably one of the nicest packaged ones, so I want to be really careful with that. Try not to break that. And there you can see it actually has some older kids, maybe like teens or preteens, who are trying to actually build some sort of an architectural layout. So that's pretty cool that they actually have some almost like marketing Lego for adults back in the day right there. Now, setting that aside, we have another similar box. This is literally the same exact thing, except it is using solid colors instead of clear. So obviously a little less interesting. I believe the pamphlet is exactly the same, but you have the exact same image of the two kids building. In fact, these two boxes are basically identical, as you can see. Obviously the back cover is a little bit different because you have a different design and the style of bricks are different, but all in all, these are technically two very, very similar sets. And I believe we have one more. Yes, right here we have the white style of plates right here. So again, you can see those patent pending logos on the bricks themselves when they catch the camera. But this is yet another one where it's just literally the same exact box as the light gray one, except it is just white instead of light gray. And they all have the same part number as well, or the same set number, which is very interesting and honestly probably pretty confusing when it comes to listing these in a database. Moving onwards from these clear containers here, we can take a look at some of the other sets where most of these, again, are the kind of slide out boxes. You can tell by how narrow they are. So let's kind of get all the different slide out boxes together. So see, there are quite a lot of them, setting aside some of the thicker ones for later. I think this is all of them. So we have a number of different things which all contain their own types of pieces. These here are some of the earliest Lego slopes. Again, as you can see, they don't have the inner kind of tubings that most normal Lego bricks have. They were just pretty much empty, which you can see here. This one didn't change too much. This is very similar to what we normally get nowadays, just with maybe a few extra cross axles in between. But then, as you can see, the bricks just work together as normal. And again, this is really just something I want to have kind of for my own collection just to keep on display. Won't really be using these bricks in any projects because it doesn't really make sense to use such vintage bricks, but it makes sense for me to keep them all together. And here you can see some clear window panes, again in stunningly good condition here. We don't get these windows again nowadays, but you have a variety of different styles of windows, different shapes. This is a 3-stud length window, which is really interesting. This is almost like a micro scale door here in the way this is set up. And then we even have a tiny little 2x2 brick with a window on it, which is a really cool, almost dual molded type of piece, where you have the white and the clear actually built in. None of these windows actually allowed you to take the glass piece out, so these were pretty much dual molded, which is really good for its time. And I love how this gives you different styles of windows. Not one type of window included in the set is the same, and they ramp up in terms of size as you continue to go on, starting off with just this 1x1 window pane right here. You can see just a tiny little bit of glass inside. I think this is my first time actually interacting with any sort of pieces like this, like these window panes, and this is probably one of my favorite things that I got from the collection here because it's my first time actually interacting with bricks like these. Moving on to here, we have just some more slopes. So this did come with a little bit of a manual. So let's kind of open that up and see what's included here. Obviously some damage here, it's a little taped together. I'm not expecting this to be in fantastic quality, and it looks like there's some dirt stains on it here, so I'm going to be a little careful with it because I don't want it to break, and I also don't want to get my hands dirty. But you can see it's advertising the different types of bricks that you could order and the different colors. These ones here are just the 1x4 slope elements here, or the, I guess, 2x4s if you want to count the 2-leg stud here. And these are very similar to the final LEGO products today, just with a slightly bumpier ridge. Zooming into here, these are not like your standard bricks because this is actually a lot rougher than you would normally expect for a LEGO slope piece. So it's interesting seeing how these kind of evolved over time. Let's just box this guy back up here, and I like how they actually did have some building examples here, which is a very nice touch. Gonna try to box it up very carefully. Come on, let's get the camera to focus here. So there we go. And this is pretty much the exact same set as the one we saw earlier, except it seems that this one actually is featuring white bricks. Now, it's kind of interesting. I'm guessing these might not be in the right box because obviously the side of the box is showing blue bricks, but I have a ton of different white bricks in here, but that's not a big deal. It's still vintage era LEGO bricks. And of course, you even have the pamphlet on the bottom here. Let's try to get that pamphlet out without damaging it. Come on. Okay, here we go. And you can see just some very simple building inspirations here. None of these had any sort of instructions whatsoever. I suspect that this actually belongs to this one right here. I have a feeling that's where it goes, and this doesn't have a pamphlet, so I feel like that is correct in my assumption that this pamphlet actually does go with this box here. But again, really interesting to see the style that LEGO was doing to actually deliver bricks to people's homes back in the day. These are not official sets, they don't have official models, but they actually are sets in their own right in terms of being parts packs, and that is very interesting. Moving onwards, we have yet one more. These are some, hopefully, yeah, clear bricks right here. Again, wow, look at the quality of these clear bricks. This is really cool to see here. I am completely stunned by how well these have held up over time. You can still see the patent pending shining through the bottom there. Right there, you can see it says patent pending. And just look at the quality of these clear bricks. I'm almost scared to put them together. I'm scared they'll crack because of age or whatnot, but no, they are working just fine together. The clutch power is pretty strong on these, and yeah, clear bricks. That is really cool to see in great quality from this era of LEGO. Just get this all closed up here, and again, the bricks were kind of just laid out there. That is a really interesting packing strategy. Then we can move on to some of the final larger boxes here. So most of the larger boxes here are just this tab style of boxes, which also have similar manuals, which we already looked at. This one is mostly sloped, so nothing super interesting there. This one is interesting because it includes different wheels. These are the original LEGO wheels, and this actually seems to be sealed up pretty well here. I'm not certain that this... Okay, I am pretty sure this is sealed. Yeah, this... Okay, I am not opening this. I did not realize this was sealed when I bought it. Wow, this is sealed. Okay, I think... Yeah, this is... I can't get this open. Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is fully sealed. That is something truly stunning to see. But you can see the metal axles for the wheels and the rubber tires there. A very interesting design that we haven't really seen again since the early days of LEGO. And you can even see some text saying to use it with the LEGO motors. So you can use this with LEGO motors. Did not know that was sealed. Wow. There you go. Over here we have another box, yeah, this one's definitely opened, where you have just some of these standard 2x3 bricks, but no, wait, these are not just standard bricks, because again, these are the vintage style of bricks with the older LEGO logo here. You can tell by the special style of logo, and the way it says patent pending on the inside of the brick. So these are era-appropriate bricks, and again, very, very cool to get these in their original boxes, where I've never seen these boxes, again, in such good condition. I don't think I've ever even encountered these boxes in my life before until now, so I knew they existed, just never really came across them, so that is something that is really cool. Moving onwards, we have some more kind of smaller bricks here. Let's see if we can get this open like so. Yep, there we go. And these are just these standard tiles, but again, you can notice that these are not like your standard LEGO pieces. They instead have this little nub in the middle of them, which really makes them completely unique and sets them apart from the current modern LEGO bricks.
That being said, the clutch power is fantastic. They work really well together, and I guess LEGO just changed it because presumably the little tiny bit of plastic in the center was a little bit less fragile, or I guess a little bit more fragile than it should have been compared to the modern LEGO bricks. But that is really cool to see so many different vintage bricks just sitting in there. Moving onwards from there, we have some more stuff to see here. So this right here is another set of wheels. Thankfully, this is open, so we can open this up and take a look at what is included here. Just a ton of different wheels. These are a little bit beat up and dirty, but obviously these are very weathered and thankfully very played with, which means that some kids got a lot of enjoyment out of this, which is obviously the goal with LEGO. You can really see the different styles of rubber here as well, which is very interesting, kind of seeing how they also kind of deteriorated over time. Finally, here we have another one of the boxes, which seems to be 2x3 plates. So let's open it up, and these are pretty much standard. Honestly, this is the closest thing that you would see to a standard LEGO brick today. I don't really detect any changes, so that is what it is. Finally, we just have a few more boxes here of the clear windowed boxes. This has a bunch of different LEGO base plates or tiled stuff in it, which is interesting to see. Let me try to... Oh, is this... let's see. Is this also sealed? I think this is also sealed because this has not been opened. So as you can see here, this is still fully sealed. So hooray, I am not going to be opening this anytime soon. So that's very cool. Finally, we have some more boxes here, and I believe these are opened. Let's see. This looks like it's open. Yeah. So this is opened, but you can see these standard LEGO 2x4 bricks. Really just basic stuff. I really kind of just bought these for the boxes themselves because it's really interesting seeing how these all had the same set number, but were all different colors of bricks. But that about sums up this pile of classic LEGO boxes. Again, these honestly belong in a museum. I am hoping to one day open a LEGO museum, so these are absolutely going in storage until that day comes. Maybe I'll have some on display on a shelf in my collection, but I absolutely am going to keep these as pristine as possible. Very, very special to have come across these, and I'm so lucky to have been able to own these. But that's not all, because we also got a few larger sets from around this era, so let's look at those right now. Alright, so for 95 euros, which I thought was a pretty good price given how good the set condition is, I picked up this Samsonite Lego building toy. So in case you aren't aware, this is, yes, Samsonite, the luggage company. Back in the day, LEGO did not have the capabilities to manufacture or sell pieces in the US. They were a very new company to operating in the United States, and they needed to partner with an existing American company to distribute their products, which already had built up infrastructure on how to do so. And so LEGO partnered with Samsonite, which is, again, the luggage company, to actually distribute their products, which is why a lot of times their LEGO bricks were stamped with Samsonite. Samsonite also experimented with messing with the LEGO brick formula itself, giving us some different scales of LEGO, and all in all, some very interesting things came out of their partnership, such as this set right here. So this was a typical LEGO set back around the year of, actually, let's figure out what exact year was this LEGO set from. Let me try to get this out of the box first. Okay, lots of great stuff in here. Does it say the year on the box? This is set number 835, and unlike modern LEGO sets, it does not appear to say the year, so I will be Googling that later on. But, oh, right here, from 1966. This is a set from 1966, yes, so saying it is fun, creative, and educational on the box here. So the bricks presumably came a little bit better laid out than this, but obviously this is a used set. This is interesting because this is an original style of base plate from the Samsonite era of LEGO. You can see it is a really interesting style because it doesn't really fit with other LEGO pieces. I mean, I guess you can kind of lay it on top of other studs and make it stay in place, but you really do have to have a much larger place to use it. And as you can see, this came with all sorts of different elements. Most interesting to me are these trees, because the trees here are the original LEGO trees that actually intend to fit on studs. This is how they attach, like so. Very, very interesting to see things actually working like that. I think it's very interesting that LEGO wanted to do trees in this style, but I understand why they eventually changed it over to the more classic and iconic LEGO style, because to be honest, if I just saw this top part in, say, a bin of toys and I didn't see the bottom, I probably could have easily mistaken this as something that wasn't LEGO. And again, that's probably why LEGO decided to eventually change it. This is interesting because here is a wheelbase piece where you can see here, you stick the metal axle in, and it works as a wheel like so. So that is pretty interesting to see here as one of the original Lego wheels. You could actually kind of put it in this way as well. So all sorts of different connections here. And what's really cool is that they didn't really have set instructions, and what they did was that they just kind of wanted to encourage people to use their imagination and build something, maybe something they could see on the front cover of the box with the pieces included. So here you can see is what they recommend for builders to make out of the box picture itself. I might try this at some point, but maybe not super priority right now to actually try to recreate this because it doesn't have instructions, so I'm really just going to be going off of the image, and I may actually just keep the bricks together with the set itself for now because I kind of just want to keep these sets pristine. But as it is, you can see all sorts of really cool Lego bricks like this clear 2x4 here. That's really interesting. And again, all of these are era-appropriate Lego pieces. So these are the early days of Lego when they were kind of still trying to figure out the pattern for their bricks. The bricks weren't perfected yet. Sometimes the clutch power was too strong. Sometimes it wasn't strong enough. But still, the basic dimensions were there for the groundwork of what Lego would become. So for this model right here, I actually tried to bring it as close as possible to the actual artwork on the front of the box, which you can see right here. Now, for whatever reason, I ran out of white pieces very quickly, which you can see I had to use the blue pieces included in the set for the bottom there, but honestly, I was pretty proud of how close I was able to get to the actual model on the box. This was all done without instructions because it didn't come with any, and I tried looking up the inventory online and I just couldn't find anything. It seems that there has literally been no record of the set ever being sold on Bricklink either. So I went to Bricklink. Bricklink doesn't have an inventory. It also says it's never been sold, so that's kind of cool. I mean, this is a very rare set, and to get this for only 95 euros when I literally cannot find another instance of it being sold on Bricklink, obviously no one is selling it now, feels like kind of a steal to me. So I'm very happy to actually have this with the box. Now that being said, let's take a look at the model itself. What was interesting is that this garage door or gate type thing doesn't actually attach, it kind of just sits here. I was looking at the front of the box and very clearly is just kind of sit here, it's just offset, so there's nothing really to do here, but it just kind of exists there. Almost looks like a minion sitting down in the way it's kind of positioned right here, but of course you can move that aside and you actually have this large house-like building here. It has a very large gate, almost like for a ranch. I kind of like the stylistic detail of the gate here, which has these blocks going in accordance with each other. Just a very unique look and feel. And of course, rotating it around the back, I actually had to put in some transparent windows on the back there. I personally think that looks pretty nice. I had no way of knowing if those windows were actually supposed to be there as per the original model, but I ran out of white pieces and these did the trick just as fine. I also improvised a window on the side of the house right there because you can't really see this side from the initial box. Otherwise, you can see the model right here, which is a really actually solid looking build for its time, especially given that this was one of the first Lego sets. I mean, this is instantly recognizable as some sort of a house-like sculpture. The gate being in yellow is a little garish, but I understand the yellow and black being like caution, and if this was all white, maybe if you imagine this is all white, it would look a little bit better. And yeah, that is like kind of like a fancy style of house. I made sure to actually make sure they were growing a garden on their roof here instead of having the trees kind of scattered throughout the courtyard, because I do not want to lose those very rare and expensive trees. One thing you may notice is that I got a little bit desperate and I had to actually use this little piece right here, which is actually a wheelbase piece, because I just ran out of 2x4 white bricks. In fact, if you want to see the bricks left over, let me bring them over right now. So the leftover bricks included a ton of wheels, which are meant to be used with the wheel bases if you want to make vehicles out of this, and an assortment of random other pieces that I really just couldn't find a use for on the box. We've got a couple 1x1s, we have a triangular slope element, a few clear pieces for windows, which I probably could have used later on in the house. I mean, I probably could have filled up sides of the lower floor of the house if I wanted to. I just didn't really know I would run out of white pieces. And we have this bizarre piece. Now, if anyone in the comments can help me out here, what is this? I mean, it says Lego, like the studs say Lego. It says patent pending on one side. I don't know what this is. If I had to guess, it was something to maybe display cars. I don't really know. I brought over one of the cars here. I don't really, like, is this supposed to sit here? I don't know. Actually, maybe. Maybe? I don't know. I might need a little bit of help here, so if someone can help me out and explain to me what exactly is this for, I would be greatly appreciative because I just really didn't know anything to do with it. Now, of course, you can park the vehicles inside the garage as well, which is a very nice touch. Just don't know what to do with this piece, so maybe you can help me out. It feels like solid plastic, but it is a little bit flimsy, or actually very flimsy. I don't want to break it, but as you can see, it does have a bend to it. Just a very odd piece. Don't really know what that's about. Other than that, I have basically completed the house here. I added a few details of my own, such as a staircase in the center of the house. Unfortunately, you can't really see that from here, but maybe if you get the angle right, you can kind of see the darker colored blob there is the staircase that actually leads up to the second floor. The floor is fully padded, so it actually does have a full floor on the second floor, and the staircase does go directly into it. So yeah, there you go. It is a fully furnished house, complete with a little bit of a vehicle parking space as well. So that was quite a fun experience. It really did feel like I was taking a portal back in time, kind of trying out the Lego building experience back in the day, what it would have been like to build a Lego set without instructions just by figuring stuff out from the pieces included and the box itself. That was a very fun experience. Going even further back in time, I purchased another Samsonite set for 150 euros. You can see it originally sold for $4.95. Obviously not factoring in inflation, but that is a little sad. But obviously this is in great condition, a really good price for such a rare and old Lego set. And this was literally just a box of bricks. And they wanted you to use these bricks to build your own stuff and be inspired by the buildings here, but pretty much this just includes a ton of different bricks. So on the back here, you can see some inspirational models, which kind of were meant to inspire people to build their own things, such as little buildings or boats or cranes, or even some animals like the elephants and giraffes there, and even some people, which you could build like so. So all sorts of really nice stuff. I actually really like the design of this kind of house style, almost feels like a medieval inn type of thing, and even something like this is a very unique structure all in all. But of course, once we open this box up here, let's try to get this guy open. This is what was included. So here you can see, unfortunately it did not include all of this. These are just advertisements for other Lego models that you could get, but instead it includes a lot of different bricks, and it does come with instructions and a catalog. So these are the instructions, although they aren't really instructions per se, because the instructions teach you how to use Lego pieces. That is really interesting, how the instructions were just teaching you how to put two Lego pieces together. Imagine if Lego included something like that nowadays. So now they actually do have some instructions, such as Lego people, Lego trains, Lego animals, and Lego furniture. You also have some pyramid roofs, saddle roofs, different types of buildings, so they're trying to teach you how to kind of make different types of buildings, so kind of interesting how they're doing that. But yeah, these are the instructions, and it even tells you to do some mosaics. So look at these early style of mosaics back in the day, way before the Lego mosaics of nowadays. Now, of course, we have a catalog here as well. So this is the Lego System by Samsonite here. You can open it up, see all sorts of boxes. Man, I would love to get my hands on this style of box. That would be really cool. Let me know in the comments if you have this for sale, because I'm always looking for rare Lego stuff. But here you can see you could actually mail order specialized Lego pieces, and the text here is saying, Samsonite introduces to America an exciting new toy for children of all ages. You can make interesting models. Here's some small supplemental sets, which are available at your nearest toy dealer to figure out which pieces you need. So these are actually hand-drawn illustrations of the different pieces. They even had a lighting device for 50 cents. That's really cool how you could actually embed lights into your stuff. Actually, everything here is for 50 cents. You can make a garage, get letter bricks, street lamps, trees, all sorts of stuff just for 50 cents, which is really, really cool. Just look at the amount of amazing things that you can get here. But now, let's actually take a look at some of the bricks themselves, because this comes with a lot of very interesting things, and as you can see, the box is actually specifically laid out such that it has these special cardboard containers for each and every single piece. This is yet another one of those base plates, which we saw earlier on the other set, which is a very new, or actually very old style of base plate right there. Looks like it's almost in new condition though, really good condition here. We have some of the windscreens in glass, and these panels actually do come out of these ones. So these are the original glass panels. It's a little bendy to the touch. I don't really want to break that, so I'm not going to mess around with this too much. I'm just going to kind of leave it in there, but you have a bunch of different windows here of different sizes, and of course the bricks themselves. So this just comes with a ton of 2x4 bricks laid out in a very, very carefully organized grid. You have some 2x3s and 2x2s, and actually 1x2s as well, all of these were meticulously laid out, almost probably by hand or maybe by machine, but I just don't want to mess this up. I mean, I just kind of want to leave it in this very, very particular arrangement here. And it's really cool how the box itself was designed to perfectly hold all of these different Lego pieces. But there is still one more Lego set that we want to take a look at here, and I'm going to warn you, that set is the strangest of the bunch. Let's go. This is a LEGO Minitalia set. So what was Minitalia? Essentially, this was a line of building bricks that LEGO put out specifically for the region of Italy, where kids and adults could actually use the bricks to kind of come up with their own architectural designs. It was made to be more of a designer's product rather than a toy product, which is really interesting. I picked up this set for 125 euros coming from the year of 1970, and again, because of the name Minitalia, was only sold in Italy. So let's open it up and see what this has included. So right here you can see a little bit of a pamphlet in Italian, so that's not really much use to us, but it is explaining what Minitalia is, and once you open it up you have a whole poster of all sorts of different inspirational builds. Whether you want to build an actual house or building, or you want to go crazy and just stack bricks together in a very archaic or kind of abstract design there are all sorts of different styles of builds that it's encouraging the builders to actually try to experiment with themselves. On the back here, you have a lot more text explaining what it even is, and of course you have an explanation of how to build some techniques like the roofs, as well as the slopes here and the sides of the doors and windows, all very interesting. But that is not the most interesting thing about these bricks, because it will become very, very obvious that these don't look like Lego bricks at all. In fact, they do not even have the Lego logo on them, so let's just take a closer look at one brick in particular. This is your standard LEGO Minitalia brick. It does not have the LEGO logo, instead it has the patent pending on the back, and underside of the studs are X's, so instead of having the standard tube system, these have X's on the bottom. But yes, these are official LEGO products, they are real LEGO as you can see right here, but this was just a very early experiment for what LEGO was trying to do and trying to figure out what their place was as a brand. And as you can see, they were really experimenting with all sorts of different kinds of bricks. Opening up the roof elements here, you may notice that again, they are using this very strange X configuration. There are no LEGO logos on these studs themselves because they are just hollow studs. And that is what it is. It is very interesting seeing this window back into LEGO's history, where I personally didn't even know these existed until doing some more research myself. Now here you can see some bricks that we never even got as official LEGO pieces, like this archway right here, which is just something made for Minitalia, almost like a bridge element. Altogether, again, no LEGO logo on the studs, which is so weird to me. And of course, this set actually did come with quite a lot of different bricks, like the window pieces. Obviously, you can see the early LEGO design elements were there. The windows were pretty much done in the same style, at least in the connection points, that most of the other classic windows were, just with no LEGO logo on the studs. So that is really interesting to see. And again, this came with a lot, and I mean a lot of bricks. You could easily build a massive house out of something like this, which is why this was one of the largest LEGO Minitalia sets they ever came out with, and one of the most interesting too, because again, no LEGO logo on the studs. I may actually try to come up with something or a build for this on my own, because I feel like it would be pretty cool to display this in my own collection, but as it is right now, that was LEGO Minitalia, another very strange and obscure vintage LEGO product.
Well, I figured why not use all of the bricks in the set itself and try to come up with what I can make. I started off with this Minitalia set by actually trying to recreate this, which you can see on the instructions. However, I quickly realized that I did not have nearly enough pieces to actually make this. So after building what was basically the front gate, I kind of had to improvise from there. What was interesting is that the set actually included this large green cardboard piece, this right here, which presumably is meant to actually be a roof. Like, you're actually supposed to just kind of put this on top of your models. I didn't really want to do that because I had a feeling I would lose it, so instead of using the roof that it suggests and kind of put the roof on here, I kind of tried to make my own using all of the bricks available, for better or for worse. As you can see here, we have a very nice little, a little sunroof up there, which actually looks kind of good. I mean, with the other piece removed, it doesn't look half bad, having the sunroof on the top there of this castle-like structure. That, of course, begs the question, what do we do with this larger window? So I kind of just stuck it on there, but, you know, we have a few extra pieces, including 2 of these windows, one of which I unfortunately broke while trying to put the blinds on. This was purely my mistake. I felt really bad. I snapped this piece while I was trying to attach the blinds, so be careful if you do own this set. I also have these. To be completely honest, I have literally no idea what to do with these. If anyone in the comments can suggest something to do with these pieces, please let me know. It also looks like they're broken. Like, this looks like it's been snapped off of something. This looks pretty beat up and dirty. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with these, or how these are supposed to interface with each other, or how they fit in with the rest of the models. They're obviously part of it. I just don't really know where they go. So these are left out, but for the most part, I did actually use all of the other pieces, so I was actually pretty proud of that, how I was able to actually put everything together as one. And this was a very interesting building experience, because the bricks do not go together like standard Lego pieces. They, of course, have this cross-axle type thing going on, so you really have to be careful with how you stick them on. They're a little bit more fragile, but yeah, as you can see, there are some early vestiges of what would become the doorways. I mean, this doorway is very similar in scale to what we would see on a standard minifigure scale door, so kind of interesting because that is not something that we typically would have for this kind of scale. But yeah, here it is. It is some sort of a nice bougie castle type gateway thing here. So there you have it. I will definitely be displaying this right in front of the box.
Now this is another very special item I was able to get from the store for only 10 euros. So as you can see here, this is a set of 3 classic LEGO spacemen. However, something is very different about them. As you can see, their torsos are stickers and not prints. You see, these come from the time frame for LEGO where they were not really knowing how to print torsos for minifigs yet, and instead for specific LEGO items, they actually sent them out with stickers to place on the torsos to replicate the prints instead of the prints themselves. This was an extremely limited run when LEGO was still trying to figure things out in their factory-wise. It's really interesting seeing this very early relic from the very early days of LEGO before they could even print on a minifig torso, having the sticker be put on there, which is an authentic original LEGO sticker. These absolutely make really special additions to my collection, and I'm very happy to now own them. And finally, to wrap things up, I got a number of classic space and classic town sets, which are in these baggies here, which honestly still have to be washed. I just kind of need to clean off all the pieces, so I'll be building those at a later time. But I just wanted to quickly show them off. These are just, I mean, in comparison to what else we saw here, are probably the most common things on this list, which are some of still the rarest LEGO classic space stuff with instructions, like this rover here. We have a secondary rover like so with a little bit of a detachable flyer, a small little spacecraft or glider-like vehicle here, and the smallest of them all, which is a very small little pod for a spaceman to fly in. Alongside that, these are not the original instructions, obviously they're just kind of printed instructions, but it was a little bit of a garage for a small LEGO town, and I just wanted to kind of have this because the garage print was interesting to me, and it was really cool kind of putting together an original town set. But these are currently in the wash, so I'll be taking a look and building them and adding them to my collection later. I just wanted to showcase the instructions for what will be coming to my collection very soon.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up my massive LEGO haul from the LEGO Perron 4 store in Alkmaar, Netherlands. Definitely, if you are in the area or if you're ever visiting Amsterdam, do take the 20 to 30 minute train ride to go to Alkmaar. Trust me, it is worth it, because this store, as we just saw in the video, has some prices that are absolutely incredible, way cheaper than Bricklink, and the selection is insane. I have never seen some of the items that they had there, and this was probably one of the coolest destinations on my trip where LEGO shopping was concerned, because there were just so many different things to see. But that about sums up this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this haul? Do you own some of the sets that you saw here, or do you own anything from this era? If so, what has been your experience with them, and have you ever visited the Perron 4 LEGO store? Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye-bye for now.